A pleasant day, everyone. Welcome once again to the JERVIN Eagle Viewpoints. It is always a distinct pleasure to be back in the vlogger's world, especially for some days that we were not able to give a new issue because of the weekend. This very moment, let us start our vlog with a text that will soothen our day. It is found in Philippians 4:6-7. It says, "Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God, and the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus." This is a text of reassurance that if we are only in the side of God, or if God is with us, nothing can be against us. This morning, our topic has something to do with one of the most used term in today's quarantine due to COVID-19. The issue is analyzing social distance, meaning versus protocol. So this very moment, we will try to analyze what do we mean by the word social distance. Have you ever heard of the term social distance? Well, let me share my academic learning with you as a sociologist. Sociologically, we can dissect this terminology. Social is an adjective that comes from the noun society. It is a terminology which means people of different kindred and orientation are living together in harmony and relevance to each other. Distance, on the other hand, in sociology means creating a gap, a purposive inclination of its integration or elimination or even termination. In short, sociological perception of social distance is keep the society close and yet let them be also far for dissociation from each other. Now, does it make sense? The definition itself is antonymous, meaning it is opposition to each other. Social means come, distance means go. Social distance is a newly coined term and not a standardized dictionary term that can have implied or conceptual or theoretical foundation as a word itself in terms of etiology. What really do the government have in mind when they want to say social distance? Well, the accepted terminology in this field of education, which is social science or sociology, is not actually social distance, but social spacing. Spacing is more accurate because it defines the kind of relationship there is in the separation of two entities. Spacing determines the depth of relationship or status of communication, while distance supposed to be should mean termination of communication and absence of relationship. Now, when you say social distance, it is two words in one terminology that is boxing and fighting each other, making the word itself questionably very irrelevant in existence. It is just like saying a darkly clear skies. Two words that cannot go with each other, or else you will mean no meaning at all, and meaningless utterance is in itself senseless. Now, I am not trying to say that we have to correct the terminology social distance now. What I'm trying to say is, if we create new terminology for the sake of giving name to our expected action, and these words should not contradict the meaning of combined words itself, or else we will combine words which the meaning will create confusion to each other in language. Okay? Now, when we create words, we have to consider the meaning of each word so that each word will complement each other and its sociological importance will be embedded in the terminology. In this present situation, sociologically speaking, we don't need distancing. We need correct spacing. This is now what I'm trying to say, that when we find the choice of words that we want to use, let us use the most accurate and precise word. Distance means termination. Spacing means just giving an interval, but you are still trying to communicate with each other. We need to know how the present virus travels, and for all we know, it travels by droplet nuclei, meaning not by air, but it travels by saliva or anything solid that comes from the human mouth, and that's the only way you can transfer this virus from one person to another. So a distance of 1 meter will already mean impossibility of transmission in a normal way, except of course if there is projectile inclusion or other abnormal actions of the infected person, which should not be considered in the field of normality. There, we don't need distancing. Rather, we need the correct spacing. It is because of this term social distance, which was used by the government, sometimes used by the schools, sometimes used by institutions, sometimes used already to create something which the term is not really made for. Again, it is because of this term social distance that people today created walls, very high walls, skyscraping walls, both physical and communicative walls, that instead of helping in the proper spacing, absence and termination of help results, because distance means termination of communication and social responsibilities. This will result to premature lockdowns, paranoid bordering without a logical rationale. Well, yes, we need to have social distance as what the government or the bureaucratic authorities term it. But accurately, let us try to perceive the term sociologically as social spacing and not social distance. Why? Because social distance will always mean to be very inhuman. Okay. Social science is a study of society. If we neglect how the science of society goes or functions, then there is absence of social science now in the way we deal with a social problem. And COVID-19 is not only a health problem, but a sociological problem in itself. Fellow vlog aficionados, let us always mean what we say and accurately define what we mean in these times of crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, we don't want social distance in the context of sociology, which is a termination of communication and absence of human interference. Rather, we need social spacing, the right interval between two persons that may lead into functionality at the same time safety in terms of the spread of this terrible virus. Yes, dear vloggers, when we do something wrong or choose to be on the wrong side, Jesus never implement distance. But He wants us to be where He can see us, and by the time we drift too far, He will bring us home. We call this religious space. We call this personal decision space. But when this space grows big, God will find a way to bring us home. In these times of crisis of panoramic proportions, let us not only consider the right action, let us also consider the accurate terminology, the accurate words and meaning that we want to connote with the terms that we are implementing and using. Whatever will this mean, or whatever do they mean by the word social space or social distance, let us always look up to God in heaven and say, His will be done. Dear vloggers, I hope you have learned this very moment that in times like this, where the accuracy of one thing that we think and say affects the general condition of how we fight a certain terrible disease, accuracy and precision will always be very important. Thank you very much for spending precious time with this vlog. I hope and pray that we can still see each other in the next vlogs in the next few days. Just tune in to JERVIN Eagle Viewpoints. And then, if you have not yet subscribed so that we can go directly to you and you will not search for us anymore. May God bless you.